It begins in silence, not the silence of absence, but the silence of becoming. Somewhere beyond time, beyond the trembling boundaries of form, a glimmer stirs, not a spark, not a thought, not even a self, just a presence, watching the unfolding of time from the outside, poised at the threshold of density. The ancient ones called this moment sacred, not because it thundered with celestial trumpets, but because it was so quiet, so intimate, so impossibly delicate that even the stars might hold their breath in reverence. This is the moment of soul arrival, the descent of the infinite into the finite, the eternal slipping into skin. Before we move deeper, listen closely. You were there once. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, but truly. Before you were you, before the soft light of the delivery room or the hush of the womb, you stood at the edge of a gateway so profound that its memory is hidden in your every cell. And here lies the hidden paradox. Something so deeply personal, yet so universally mysterious, has been veiled in myth, doctrine, and science alike, rarely approached with the reverence it deserves. This is not just about birth. This is about incarnation, the cosmic choreography of spirit meeting matter. And that, my friend, is a tale worth staying for. So stay until the end, because what you're about to uncover may not only shift your understanding of life and death, but stir something ancient within you, something half-remembered. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, now is a good time. This journey we're about to embark on, it's unlike anything you've heard before. The soul's descent is not a one-time act. It is a sacred rhythm, a divine pulse echoing through your entire existence. And it starts with one hidden moment, more mysterious than even death itself. Most people ask, when does the soul enter the body? But that question, while valid, is incomplete. It assumes time behaves as we perceive it, assumes the body is merely a container, and that the soul is a guest. But what if that's not true? What if the soul doesn't just enter? What if it blends, weaves, awakens in layers? Like morning light through mist, gradually becoming visible, yet always present. What if it's not a single event, but a dance? In ancient spiritual traditions, from Vedic scriptures to Gnostic gospels, from Egyptian mysticism to indigenous birth rituals, the arrival of the soul was never a simple timestamp. It was an initiation, a rite involving multiple stages, each one deeper than the last. And in our modern era, dulled by the hum of machines and the dissection of everything sacred into measurable parts, we've lost that poetic awareness. But make no mistake, beneath the scans and statistics, there is still a moment, a pivot, where the formless consents to become form. Close your eyes and imagine a seed cracking open underground. You cannot see it, but it is the beginning of a forest. The moment the soul begins its descent is just as invisible, just as potent. There is an invisible corridor between realms, and though no eyes can witness it, something crosses. It's not the flick of a switch. It's not a flicker on an ultrasound. It's the touch of the infinite brushing against biology, activating what some mystics call the first memory, the sacred spark that says, I am here now. I choose this. But where is here? Is it the body, the womb, the breath? Or is it consciousness itself? To even approach this question, we must soften the rigid frameworks of our minds. We must loosen the grip of logic just enough to allow a larger truth to enter, not irrational, but trans-rational. This is not about rejecting science. It's about realizing that science, like language, can only describe so much before it must gesture toward the ineffable. And so we turn to metaphor, to symbol, to story. Not because they are untrue, but because they are too true for ordinary words. They let us speak of what lives beyond grammar. They let us describe what it feels like to cross the threshold of worlds. The moment of soul entry is like the whisper behind the first breath, the soundless sound that ushers existence into being. In that moment, something eternal makes an agreement with the temporary. Something infinite chooses limitation, not as punishment, but as purpose. What kind of purpose? That is for the rest of this journey to reveal. For now, it is enough to remember. You are more than born. You are initiated. And the moment of that initiation is woven into your heartbeat, your intuition, your dreams. Every longing for meaning, every sense that you are more than a body, more than a name. That is the echo of your arrival. There are truths so vast they must arrive quietly, lest they overwhelm. The entry of the soul is one of them. But if we listen, not with ears but with being, we might catch the sacred rustle of wings that once carried you here. If the introduction allowed us to glimpse the sacred moment as a mysterious event, a whispering threshold between spirit and form, then this next layer asks us to pause and look deeper. What actually occurs when the soul enters? What laws govern this celestial convergence of the eternal and the temporal? This is where we must unpack not just the when, but the how, not with sterile definitions, but with reverent curiosity. And as we peel back the veil, it becomes clear. The arrival of the soul is not bound by linear time. It is governed by a subtler rhythm, one shaped not by clocks, but by consciousness. Let's begin with the illusion of simultaneity. We tend to think in snapshots, first conception, then heartbeat, then birth, like checkboxes on a form. But the soul's arrival doesn't mirror this mechanical sequence. It is more like light filtering through stained glass, fragmented, refracted, beautiful, entering in layers, not all at once. There are initiatory stages, like constellations aligning across dimensions, each one preparing the next. In certain traditions, the soul begins its descent at the moment of conception, drawn magnetically toward a particular lineage, a specific womb, a resonant frequency encoded in the DNA of the body forming beneath. Not randomly, not biologically, but karmically, spiritually, cosmically. And yet conception is not entry, it is invitation. The soul hovers, watches, waits. It's not yet fully immersed. The mother's body becomes a sacred gate, the father's spark a kindling. But the full merging requires readiness, both of the vessel and of the soul itself. For some, the soul fully descends early in gestation. For others, it slips in gently, bit by bit, sometimes not fully anchoring until the first breath. In rare accounts, both mystical and near-death testimonies, we hear of souls choosing to remain at the edge of embodiment until the final push into the world. The cry of the newborn, in these stories, is not just a physiological reaction, but a cosmic trumpet. I have landed. I am here. So we see. There is no singular moment that can be stamped. There is only a sacred process, a divine alchemy. And like all great acts of creation, it refuses to be reduced to mechanics. In Hindu cosmology, this act is mirrored by the descent of Atman, the divine spark, into Prakriti, the world of form. In Kabbalistic tradition, it is the descent of the soul through the four worlds, Atziluth, Bariah, Yetzirah, and finally Asaya, where it becomes clothed in flesh. Even modern spiritual psychology echoes this notion, describing the soul's entry as an embodiment process, not a light switch, but a sunrise. But what compels the soul to enter at all? This is the heart of the mystery. The soul is not assigned to a body by accident. There is an intelligence, a deep spiritual intent behind every incarnation. The soul is drawn by resonance, by lessons unresolved, by destinies waiting to be fulfilled, by wounds to be healed, and gifts to be given. It is not punishment, nor random fate. It is precision, a symphony of synchronicity. The parents you are born to, the timing of your arrival, the geography of your birth, All of it is a reflection of what your soul seeks to explore, refine, redeem. Imagine the universe as a vast ocean, and each incarnation as a drop of that ocean seeking to experience itself in form. The soul, standing at the edge of that leap, chooses not because it must, but because it longs. Longs to remember, longs to experience contrast, light and shadow, joy and sorrow, triumph and forgetting. In this dance of polarity, the soul finds its mirror and its refining fire. And here a more uncomfortable truth rises. The soul's entry is often accompanied by forgetting, the sacred amnesia of birth. To enter the body is to step into limitation. The cosmic memory is veiled, not erased. And that veil becomes the stage for our entire human drama. We live seeking to remember what we once knew, that we are not our names, our bodies, our stories, but rather the spark behind the eyes, the breath behind the breath. This is why ancient traditions spoke of birth not merely as a beginning, but as a loss, a fall, a descent, and yet not a tragic fall, but a purposeful one, like a diver plunging into the depths to retrieve a pearl. The pearl, of course, is meaning, and meaning can only be born through experience, through choice, through embodiment. That is the paradox. We come into form to remember the formless. We become limited to rediscover the limitless. The body is not a prison, it is a teacher. And the moment the soul enters it, that teaching begins. There's another layer, one often missed in spiritual discourse, the role of timing. The soul chooses not only where to enter, but when. Every historical moment, every astrological configuration, every cultural climate holds a particular frequency. Your moment of incarnation is not random. It is a cipher, a cosmic code. You are a message sent into a world that needs what only you can carry. Your entry, then, is not just personal, it is participatory. You are not here to escape the world, but to help transmute it. And that mission begins before you take your first breath. So we return to the original question. When and how does the soul enter the human body? And the answer, as you may now sense, is layered, sacred, non-linear. It begins with intention, unfolds through resonance, manifests through the womb, and completes itself in stages: conception, gestation, breath. Yet beyond the mechanics, it is always a holy act, a divine agreement, a soul kneeling before the veil and saying, "Yes, I will remember in the forgetting. I will bring light into the density. I will arrive." To speak of the soul's arrival in technical terms alone is like trying to describe a sunrise by measuring the speed of light. It misses the color, the awe, the trembling hush before dawn. So now we move into the heart of meaning, where symbols and stories speak louder than facts. For it is through allegory that truth often slips past our defenses, weaving itself into the subconscious like a dream that refuses to fade. The soul's entry into the body, this sacred moment of incarnation, has been whispered in myths, carved into ancient symbols, encoded in sacred texts. The deeper one listens, the more one sees. The story of your arrival is part of a much older tale, one told across cultures and time. Consider, for instance, the Gnostic myth of Sophia, the divine feminine wisdom who fell from the pleroma, the realm of pure light, into the lower realms of matter. Her descent was not a fall in shame, but a voluntary surrender, a yearning to birth something new in a world yet unborn. Her spark became trapped in form, waiting to be remembered. This is the story of every soul. Your entry into the body is not just biology, it is the retelling of Sophia's descent. You are wisdom clothed in flesh, light buried in clay, here not by error, but by sacred design. In the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the soul is said to journey through the Bardo realms, dreamlike stages between death and rebirth. There, the soul is shown visions, karmic echoes, radiant deities, and terrifying illusions. Only by choosing the middle path, neither clinging nor fleeing, does the soul pass into the womb. In one passage, it describes the moment of conception as a flash of both desire and delusion, but also grace. The soul sees its future mother and father and feels a magnetic pull, a strange love. Not sentimental love, but the recognition of soul contracts, a sense of, these are the ones. This is the place. I am ready. And so, the descent begins. In another symbolic tradition, the Hermetic view, the soul's journey downward is likened to light descending through the 7 planetary spheres, each one wrapping it in another layer: emotion, desire, intellect, memory, sensation. With each descent, the soul forgets a little more of its origin. By the time it reaches Earth, it wears a full cloak of amnesia, heavy but necessary. The soul's naked radiance would blind the senses. Only by dimming itself can it walk among shadows and learn what light truly means. Now picture this: a candle flame held above a pool. Slowly it leans forward and dips itself into the water. The flame is not extinguished. It becomes something else, a shimmer beneath the surface. This is you. Your consciousness is the flame, and the body is the water. The shimmer is life, the interaction between essence and embodiment. You never stopped being soul. You just entered another expression of it. And the moment of arrival? It is the candle's kiss upon the surface. Quiet, radiant, eternal. Even the simple myths of childhood echo this truth. Have you ever noticed how many stories begin with a hero dropped into a strange land with no memory of who they truly are? Whether it's the child in the wardrobe, the orphaned wizard, the girl who falls through the rabbit hole, these are not just fantasies. They are symbolic echoes of you. Your life began with forgetting, but your story is about remembering. Every myth is a mirror. And within those mirrors, a deeper pattern emerges. The soul doesn't just enter a body, it chooses a story. Each life is a myth in progress. Your fears, your joys, your sufferings, they are the brushstrokes of a masterpiece you began painting long before your birth. You are not just living a life. You are performing a ritual, dancing an archetype, embodying a facet of the divine in form. Even your name, your birth date, your struggles, they are symbols in the larger mosaic. To understand when and how the soul enters is also to understand that nothing about your arrival was random. In many indigenous traditions, it is said that the soul whispers to the unborn child in the womb, "I will be with you always, even when you forget me." This is the voice of your higher self, your true being. And perhaps this is the deepest symbolism of all, that the soul does not enter and vanish into flesh, but remains always just behind the veil, guiding you from within. It speaks in intuition, in déjà vu, in moments when time stands still and you feel more you than ever before. These are echoes of that sacred moment, the moment of entry, still reverberating through your life like the lingering hum of a struck bell. The philosopher Plotinus once described the soul's journey into the body as a descent into forgetfulness, followed by a lifelong climb back to the One. But he also said that within each soul is a seed, a memory of its source, that pulls it upward even in its darkest hour. The soul, in this view, is both exile and homecoming. Your arrival was not a loss. It was a mission. The forgetting was the beginning of a longer remembering. And here is where the stories all converge. Whether in the myth of Sophia, the journey through the bardos, or the soul's descent through planetary spheres, each narrative speaks of a sacred exchange. The soul does not enter the body out of duty or punishment. It does so with reverence, with hope, with an ache to touch what only incarnation can teach: love through limitation, light through shadow, oneness through the illusion of separation. You were not thrown into the world. You entered, chose, descended with purpose, like a phoenix, not falling into ashes, but choosing to be reborn through them. Now that we've journeyed through the sacred metaphors and cosmic layers of the soul's arrival, the question turns toward us, quiet but insistent. What now? If it is true that we are not mere accidents of biology but consciously arrived souls, then how should that shape the way we live, love, choose, suffer, and create? What does it mean to carry the memory, however dim, of our sacred descent into the body? The answer begins not in the grand events of our lives, but in the subtle ones. The way we greet the morning, the way we speak to our own reflection, the way we respond to fear, not with rejection, but with the recognition that even fear carries echoes of a long-forgotten vulnerability born of incarnation. To live from the truth of soul arrival is to treat your very breath as sacred, your body not as a burden but as a temple, a vessel that was chosen, not imposed. You are not here by chance, you are here by consent, and that changes everything. We begin to see others differently too, no longer merely faces on a screen or bodies in passing, but walking mysteries, souls too, who cross that same shimmering threshold, whether they remember it or not, whether they live kindly or cruelly. They are travelers just as you are, wearing masks of memory, masks of forgetting. This is where compassion takes root, not in pity, but in shared origin. The driver who cut you off, the parent who never understood you, the lover who left. Each of them once hovered at the veil too, trembling with the enormity of the descent. This awareness transforms our relationships. When you truly sense that every being you meet is carrying the echoes of that sacred moment, that their soul, like yours, once whispered yes to a world of joy and heartbreak, you start to listen differently, love differently. Even conflict becomes a chance to remember. We are not separate entities colliding, but divine threads tangled in a tapestry too vast for the eye to see. And this knowing brings a quiet responsibility, not heavy, not moralistic, but luminous. If you truly remember that you are a soul in body, then your choices begin to reflect that deeper architecture. You start asking different questions. Not, what do I want from life? But, what did I come to give? What am I here to remember on behalf of the whole? Your work, your art, your parenting, your silence, they all become vessels through which your original light can re-enter the world. This doesn't mean life becomes easy. In fact, to live with soul awareness is often to feel more deeply the ache of beauty, the sting of loss, the weight of empathy. But those feelings are no longer just emotional, they're sacred data. They remind you that you are alive, that you are here, that the soul has not fallen asleep within you. Every heartbreak becomes a chance to say, ah yes, this is why I came, to know love so deeply that even its absence changes me. On a larger scale, this awareness cracks open how we engage with the systems around us. Imagine if our schools taught not just facts, but the sacredness of incarnation. If our hospitals treated not just the body, but the journey of the soul behind it. If governments understood that to legislate human life is to touch the garment of divinity. When the soul is acknowledged, dignity becomes non-negotiable. We don't just protect life, we honor it, not because of what it produces, but because of what it is, a miracle, breathing. There are practical echoes of this in every domain. In childbirth, recognizing that the moment of arrival is more than biological, it is cosmic, can shift how we support the birthing process. In mental health, understanding soul embodiment helps us recognize that not all suffering is pathology. Some of it is the ache of remembering. In grief, knowing the soul chose its exit as it once chose its entrance can bring a strange kind of peace, a sorrow wrapped in purpose. Even time itself begins to feel different. You stop racing through it as if late to some finish line. You begin to walk with it, live inside it, because every moment is part of that original rhythm, the same rhythm that drew you down from formlessness into form. Every sunrise echoes the soul's first opening to light. Every breath is a continuation of that first sacred inhale. And perhaps the most intimate transformation is this. You begin to meet yourself not with judgment, but with reverence. That scar on your skin, that awkward memory from childhood, that persistent longing you've never been able to explain, all of them are pages from the soul's descent, signs of the crossing, proof that you came here not to be perfect, but to embody something infinite in a world of limits. This changes healing too. Healing becomes less about fixing and more about remembering, less about becoming someone else, more about uncovering the echo of who you've always been. The body, once seen as flawed or failing, becomes a sacred map, a landscape marked with the signs of your journey. Every illness, every ache, every burst of laughter is the soul speaking through the form it chose. And so the question is not if the soul entered, but whether we are living in a way that honors its presence, whether we can pause in the chaos of daily life and remember, I am here because I once chose to be. I crossed the veil. I am not from here, but I am here now. And that matters. This awareness is not abstract. It's not a spiritual theory. It's an invitation. To live more slowly, more reverently, to treat your life as a continuation of that sacred yes. Every morning becomes a new arrival. Every decision a re-choosing. Every act of love a re-entry into purpose. You were there. Before your name, before your story, before the wrinkled hands caught you and welcomed you into this world, you stood at the precipice. There was no language, no identity, no fear, only knowing. A knowing that something sacred awaited, that to step into this life would mean forgetting, but also the chance to remember in ways that only a body, a world, and time itself could offer. And so you came. Quietly, invisibly, magnificently. The sacred moment of arrival was not when the doctor recorded your birth. It happened in the hidden places, in the stillness of your mother's womb, in the mysterious merging of soul and flesh, in the slow, divine weaving of your eternal self into a temporary form. The world didn't stop to celebrate, but the stars remembered. You see, this journey, this descent into density, is not a flaw in the divine plan. It is the plan. The soul doesn't fall. It volunteers. It carries within it an ancient vow, to go down into the dark and carry the light. You were not dropped into this life. You descended into it like a pearl diver into the depths. And like every diver, your task is not just to survive the descent, but to retrieve something precious, something only you can bring back. The sacred moment of soul entry is not a one-time event, frozen in the past. It echoes every time you awaken to who you really are. Every time you forgive when it's hard. Every time you feel joy so deep it moves you to tears. Every time you sit in stillness and remember that behind all the noise you are home. That echo is still inside you, waiting, resonating, guiding. You were born into forgetting so that your remembering would be real. Not inherited, not imposed, but chosen. What happens when a human being begins to live from that place, from the sacred yes that once brought them here? They stop chasing perfection and start honoring presence. They stop asking, "Why me?" and start whispering, "Ah, yes, this is part of why I came." They begin to see beauty in the broken things, meaning in the mess, and spirit behind the most mundane. Life becomes less about escape and more about embodiment, less about arrival and more about re-arrival, again and again, deeper and deeper. The soul doesn't just enter the body once, it enters every time you align with truth, every time you risk vulnerability, every time you choose courage over numbness, every time you soften the hard edges and say, "I'm still here." You don't need to search for proof that your life matters. You are the proof. The moment you took your first breath, the universe breathed with you. The moment your soul fused with this fragile, beautiful vessel, a covenant was made to live this life, not perfectly, but soulfully, with awareness, with reverence, with curiosity, with fire. And so this is your call, not from me, but from the echo within you. That whisper before your first breath is still speaking. Can you hear it? It says, remember why you came. Honor the body that holds you. See others as travelers, not strangers. Choose wonder over numbness. Live not as one who was born, but as one who arrived with purpose. You were not meant to sleepwalk through life. You were meant to awaken in it. To awaken others by the way you walk, speak, serve, love. Your presence is not a byproduct of evolution. It is a divine appointment. And when life feels too heavy, too absurd, too painful to bear, remember this. You have survived the descent. You have already crossed the veil. What you carry within you is older than this world, wiser than your wounds, brighter than your doubts. The soul's arrival was not a beginning. It was a continuation of something eternal, and that eternity is still unfolding through you. So breathe, deeply, as if it were your first breath, as if you are just arriving again, because in this moment, you are. Welcome.